Alright, today is a video for a member of the Spunk Brigade. He is an official card-carrying member of my cum cult, the Spunk Brigade. He has been for years, and he loves Nomad. So I thought, let us take a look at a story about Nomad. This is Captain America 281 by Jim DeMatteis and your boy Zeck. It is part one of a three-part story. And I have been thinking this three-parter is maybe Jim DeMatteis' best Captain America story. His run is often overlooked, or even flat out less good, because it comes between two far more impressive runs, and there are some faux pas and misfires in his Captain America stories. But this one doesn't have much going against it. Nice simple opening too. We have an ad Captain America propaganda film strip sort of thing, and Steve Rogers and his girlfriend Beanie Feldstein, they are watching it, and it reminds Steve of Bucky Man, and that makes him very sad. But wait, there is a mysterious person also in the cinema, and he is covered in shadow and is immediately suspicious. And then he starts following Steve and Beanie, and this person seems to have some ideas or agenda involving them. Then we have Spider-Girl, who is honestly not important to this story. And this entire scene, her inclusion, is indulgent, and the editor taking shots at what someone else had done with Spider-Girl. The editor of this is Mark J, and one of his first writing assignments for Marvel was Spider-Girl. He actually had the only interesting and realised run on the character. He had her as a sort of DC-style defender of the night. She would fight freaks and serial killers and other weird, occult or scary sort of things. After he left her title, Christopher Clairvoyant started writing. And as you know, I am not a fan of him, and I completely agree with Mark and his feelings on one thing Christopher Clairvoyant did. But I think using an issue of Captain America to somewhat spitefully undo it, well, it is as bad as the sort of thing Christopher Clairvoyant does to retcon other people's Excellent Men stories. You see, what Christopher Clairvoyant did with Spider-Girl was, out of nowhere, made it the case that she is Madame Idris's daughter. Typical small universe syndrome from the man who practically invented the concept of a small universe. 44 issues in, he decides, let's forever attach her to another character who she has little to do with. This page, though, all of her inner monologues, they read like, they honestly come across as a fucking parody of Christopher Clairvoyant. These 4 pages, these are Mark. They are absolutely plotted by him. And I'm not sure if even Jim DeMatteis scripted them. It is worth noting, Jim DeMatteis wrote a fill-in issue of Spider-Girl between the two, the issue with Turner D Century. So Jim DeMatteis is the real royalty of Spider-Girl writers. That was also the issue when she walked in on a boy masturbating. We have Madame Hydra's very hastily dismiss the idea that she is her mother, and as she rants and raves about opium dreams and how she was wrong about being her mother, we have this corny and again parody feeling sequence with Spider-Girl being attacked by a massive serpent. My overall opinion is that I wholeheartedly agree that the mother-daughter revelation was a lot of bullshit. It was a bad idea by a man filled with them. But while I would have some patience for undoing it, this is a selfish, dick-waving measure. Our bad guy in this story is Madame Hydra's. So one of the few things this scene deserves to be in the story for is to establish our villain. But everything else has no real place in an issue of Captain America. It's pointless, unrelated, and worst of all, egotistically spiteful. I am glad it was done, but it is as shit as anyone else doing it. The scene ends promising us more on Spider-Girl next issue. And there isn't, not really. We see her over Skype saying, "Yes, I was attacked by Madame Hydra's." Back with Stevie and Beanie, we have some couple stuff, and this is... Before we turn the page, I need to point out that only 2 issues ago there was an imposter story. I won't get into details. It was Les Claypool. He transformed into Captain America. But knowing that Steve and Beanie recently had that ordeal makes what happens on the next pages less uncalled for. There is a knock at the apartment door, and it is Bucky Man. Huh? What? But he died in World War II. And Steve sees his face and really fucking goes for it. He is offended and angry that someone is trying to trick him or attack him through the use of his dead partner. He quickly points out that he isn't Bucky Man, but is instead the replacement Bucky Man from the 1950s, Jack Nomad. And if you're expecting cutaways to explain who he is, very little point for that, because these 2 pages do it for me. One thing I want to immediately compliment is that Jim DeMatteis, through this recap, finally gives Jack some actual backstory and personality. Before this, he was never the focus or anything but a co-conspirator. What happened was, in the 50s, a crazy man who was obsessed with Captain America, he decided to become the new Captain America. He found a kid, Jack, who was a big fan of Captain America and convinced him to become his Bucky man. The two of them injected themselves with dodgy drugs that were meant to be the Super Soldier Boy syrup, but they were only a partial formula, and as a result, the drugs made them go crazy and go paranoid, and they started thinking everyone was a commie. They were put on ice by the government in the 50s because they were a liability. All this backstory was told in Captain America 153 through to 156. In that story, they were revived from their slumber, and now in the present day of the time, set out to fight the real Captain America, who they thought was a pretender. Very good fight, that one. Issue 156. The final part of their story so far was in Slurms Mackenzie's run, when poor Jack was seemingly murdered by his mentor, Captain America 231 through to 236. And I suppose the start of 237 was important fallout. Jack's presence in that is literally a panel or two of flashback explaining what happened to him. He didn't die though. He instead got turned over to S.H.I.E.L.D, who have managed to help him and treat him. And now he is rehabilitated. And this is actually a really nice scene. After Steve beating Bloody, that is. Steve quickly offers his hand of friendship and to help Jack get acquainted and used to the modern world. Keep in mind, Steve has no reason to let Jack Nomad into his life. Before this, Jack had only been an opponent to him. But Steve sees this kid in need of friendship and who seems to have received appropriate help and who really does need someone like Steve looking out for him. And Steve wants to be his friend and get him settled into things. The only thing better than that is Madame Hydra's leaning forward to perfectly accentuate her lovely bum. I love how Madame Hydra's is written in this as well, nearly justifying that prior scene with Spider-Girl is this bit of payoff where one of her foot soldiers brings her the news that Spider-Girl survived the snakes. And this obviously upsets Madame Hydra's, who then shoots and kills the messenger. I know I will be getting into Madame Hydra's in one of the next parts of this story, so I'll try to avoid getting too much into her history now. But Madame Hydra's is an excellent villainess, or rather, she was introduced as such. The problem was other writers made her stock and generic, and especially Christopher Clairvoyant, he made her less insanely evil. Christopher Clairvoyant gave her a fucking romance and the same obsession with Gary that he gives most characters. She is written fantastically in this. She is cold and evil and insane. And part of her plan, her evil hidden base is under a regular suburban house, and she is posing as a normal Stepford wife. If she needs someone to play her husband in this facade, I know a YouTuber who is very, very much into this idea. Elsewhere we have our heroes. Captain America and his new friend, who is operating as Bucky Man again. This is getting quite long, so I want to quickly say he has black hair in this. By the end of the three-parter, it won't be black anymore. And that is a shame. I think the black hair helped him stand out as separate from the original Bucky Man or from Dickie Jones. The two of them are randomly attacked by the supervillain Constrictor Man. It is a short fight. I would have liked to see a bit more of it, especially since it ends with Constrictor Man actually defeating Captain America and taking him prisoner. Jack is left behind and he feels like he has already let down Captain America. We have a letter here from Barry Dutter, who goes on to work at Marvel, and he became a writer and editor. He mainly writes some inventory stories for Marvel Comics Presents and crap like that. He also would send hate mail in whenever She-Hulks appeared in a comic. He is either a brilliantly committed troll or an obnoxiously horrible man. I definitely recommend this issue and story. Even the one negative thing is more of a... Well, I don't endorse this in general, even if I agree with it. If you want to have some backstory on Nomad, this is essential to his history. I'll give this a pretty thorough 7 thumbs up.